Hello, CRA Academy exclusive. This is for no one else but the CRA Academy. Um, we're very lucky to have Christine Naro on. She's a CRA for a sponsor. She's also a former study coordinator. She's also a perfect example of somebody who networks, like just completely takes networking to a whole nother level. We were just talking about Clubhouse earlier. Christine was and still is huge on that platform. So yeah, for a sponsor. So any questions, put in the chat or feel free to unmute. I mean, this is a small group. It's not going to go anywhere else but on the CRA Academy exclusive members. Maybe the YouTube members, but there's only like 8 people on there. So CRA Academy, there's going to be like 20 people seeing this total, but the quality is where it's at. And we'll have the links to Christine's LinkedIn underneath, but she's easy to find. Just Christine Naro, Narro. She's also Latinos in Clinical Research, our first brand ambassador we've ever had, spearheading a lot of opportunities. It's just another testament to her being a great a fantastic networker. And we're just going to talk, we wanted to inspire you guys. I try to bring on real CRAs every now and then. That's not me or Tiffany or Chris, because you hear from us plenty. Will hear from me and Chris a lot in the internship, but from Tiffany, you hear plenty. So here's another. Christine Naro, how's it going?
Hi, everybody. Hi, Dan. And thank you for allowing me to be here today. I'm so excited to learn about your CRA Academy students and what they're doing and share, my tips and tricks with them. And hopefully it'll help them out once they're ready to find a job in the industry.
We had Ashley Margot as another guest lecturer a few weeks back. She taught everyone how to do their LinkedIn and their CVs. But with you, we're going to take it. That was very granular. With you, we're going macro. Okay, how did you become a CRA? How do you still network? How did you go from coordinator to CRA in a very specialized place? But let's start first with your military background, because I think that's important. And by the way, welcome to your very first CRA Academy guest lecture, by the way. Thank you very much for that.
Thanks, Dan. So, yes, if you go to my LinkedIn, you'll see that I started in ophthalmology in the military. I actually trained with them to become an ophthalmic technician. And I've always been a reservist, being that I was not active duty. I had to find a regular 9 to 5 job. So when I started finding or looking for jobs, I worked in optometry for 6 months and then I moved to ophthalmology. And after a few years in ophthalmology, that's when the opportunity arose for me to become a clinical research coordinator in ophthalmology at one of the practices that I was working at. So I went ahead and took the opportunity. I had a really good mentor. He's like, just get your GCP and I'll teach you the ropes. And I was his unmasked coordinator for about 2 years. And then I left there and I got to work for a military base and I supported their expeditionary medicine research. I was a project manager assistant. And their studies are a little bit different, but it's very interesting. They still run research, they still have an IRB and all of those things. But I was more in charge of the cost schedule and performance of those projects. And then once I left there, I went back to ophthalmology for a short while. And then that's when I had to go to Mississippi to retrain into a different career field for the military. So I'm no longer in optometry. Now I'm a unit training manager. But while I was in Mississippi, I had a lot of free time on my hands. So that's when I decided to network and I met Dan. And I joined Latinos in Clinical Research and I fixed up my LinkedIn and recruiters started reaching out and that's how I got the job that I have now. So,
And yes, excellent story. And by the way, Latinos in Clinical Research open to any ethnicity, any background. We have literally all ethnicities in there already as members. It's completely free. We never charge for anything. And then Christine does a really good job with that as a brand ambassador. So how did you go? Because I remember when we never met in person. Still to this day, we still have to do that. But how did we met on LinkedIn, I think, right?
Yes, well, part of the, when you're trying to break into the industry, you just got to get out there and you got to network with people. And you were always posting videos, going live on LinkedIn, on Instagram. And I would just hop on every time you went live and I would just say, hey, comment on your links and stuff like that. And start networking with the people that were chatting in your lives and whatnot. And so then I started growing my network slowly that way. So that's a really good way to grow your network is to find people that are leaders in the industry, like Dan, and then follow them and follow the people that they talk to and see what other ideas are out there because people can be subject matter experts in one thing like regulatory or clinical departments. So then you want to chat with all sorts of people, especially if you're trying to grow your network.
We're going to talk a little bit about ophthalmology, and then we're going to talk a little bit about transitioning from a CRC to a CRA and how you work for a sponsor, right? And how I think it came up like you actually got this was you, right? Because I know it happened to Ashley also, but you got offer from a CRO and from a sponsor, right?
I
And then
did.
we kind of talked through like, hey, Christine, like I really think the sponsor's the way to go, but you can't go wrong either way. And we're gonna talk about all that, your day to day as a CRA for a sponsor, which is I think the ultimate destination for anyone who wants to be a CRA. The truth is you don't necessarily want to be with these CROs. I mean, maybe it's for some people, but I think it's a great place to get your start, but ultimately quality of life is better for the series, in my opinion, from what I've seen that work at the sponsor level. But you can also make very good money climbing the corporate ladder at the CRO as well.
Mhm.
So how did you go like CRC to CRA? All your only experience in research was ophthalmology, right?
Yes, and I'm still in ophthalmology. So I support a vision care team for a medical device sponsor. But yeah, so basically, I was a technician first. I learned how to scribe, I know how to refract, work up patients. I was a surgical coordinator for about 2 years as well, and then I became a clinical research coordinator, which was really exciting because my boss he didn't really like the administrative part, so I got to learn a lot about like how to set up the ISF because of course that's all the paperwork that you have to organize, scheduling appointments, getting to know the patients, what their medical conditions were and such, and coordinating, transportation for them, getting them financial assistance if they needed it. Maybe they didn't qualify for this study, but there's a like foundation that they could register with to help them treat eye conditions like macular degeneration or retinal vein occlusion, cover those $2,000 medications. Because those are typically the patients that you will interact with that really need your help. And that's why they're turning to research is because maybe they can't afford it most of the time. So definitely having the clinical coordinator, surgical coordinator background helped me be a better asset to the clinical research team at the clinic.
And
So
so
that was really exciting.
from coordinator to CRA, what was the transition like? How long did that take? What was the process like? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes, so I was a coordinator from 2017, I would say up to about 2021 because I got this job in April. So it is a process. You have to learn different things like how to monitor the sites, how to work with the CRO, how to request the financial payments and stuff like that. So it's just a little bit different when you work for the sponsor because we had a CRO or we have a CRO running the study. So I take a lot of work of oversight. So basically, just making sure that the CRO is on time and on track with the study, the enrollment, and then just taking care of the finances for the sponsor, making sure everybody gets paid, and reporting up to upper management for the sponsor. So, which is the president
Ah,
of medical
that's your
affairs.
role. Okay. I just I just realized 2 weeks ago because I moved here to Arizona. So I'm in a small border town, Yuma. There's only like there's a few ophthalmologists, but there's only two that are independent, like not owned by the hospital. So those are the only two I could work with. And then I went all the way to El Centro, where Judy has a site. Judy Galindo, also from LICR, and she has no ophthalmologist in her area, just optometrists. So I foolishly went all the way down there to meet with them, the optometrist, give them a book, and it wasn't until an hour into our conversation that I realized they're not MDs. So I can't do research with them. Basically, I went there to look at the equipment that they have. But so this is how little I know about ophthalmology. But I have an ophthalmologist here in Yuma, and we're trying to get him studies. So
Hmm.
I might have to start doing networking with you soon, Christine. I
Of
just thought of that.
course.
If you're looking for sites
Sure.
in an underserved area, let me know. So
Will
they
do.
like a day in the life. Okay, you kind of touched on it, but a day in the life because I have my action items provided by CLINT Essentials to me from my last monitoring visit. I'm a contract CRA, and I made a few critical errors that I want to share with the students. But just walk us through a day in the life of you. You're not a contract CRA. You work directly for the sponsor. So a day in the life for you.
So I have to be very honest with you and with everyone here. And I don't monitor the sites. The CRO sends their CRAs to monitor the sites. So I'm not sure if my list of
Oh, I
action
like that.
items would match what you have there. But my day to day is basically, running through my emails. You have to stay on top of the emails, especially if you're managing, like, several sites or multiple studies. Just stay on top of it, try to organize it. You can color code your emails, or you can have them go into certain folders automatically. So definitely work your email to your advantage, because you don't want to miss anything. You don't want to miss an invoice. You don't want to miss, a report of something very important like an AE and things like of that nature. So just make sure you stay on top of your email. And since I'm remote, of course, that's a big deal for me.
So you work
But
from
then,
home, completely from home.
yes, actually, this is my office right back here. So,
A
yep,
lot
I
of
work from
people,
home.
no, I'm glad that we have you on because a lot of students are asking me, hey, I want to be a CRA, but I don't want to travel. Is it possible? And I've always said no, more or less. But in your case, it's yes.
Hmm. Yes, I do feel lucky, but I also feel like I have a little bit of FOMO, because being that I went from CRC straight to CRA and I've never gone to a site to monitor, I mean, I don't know how to feel. You know what I mean?
Well,
So,
you can always find out at some point. So, do you, because this is a relatively new job for you, right? Like, at what, a year? Is it a year
it'll,
already?
no, it'll be a year in April.
Okay, so
Mhm.
very new. Um, do you interact? You said your sponsor uses a CRO for their monitors, but you're the monitor for the sponsor. So, do you look at their reports when they complete them? Do you go over their reports that the monitors send in?
Well, I would sometimes go into the because I have access to the ETMF, so I can definitely go in there and access the reports. And so, like, if we have, for example, a trouble site and I need to see what their action items are, then I'll go in there and I'll access the report. So yes, they're very important.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So you'll like for the troubled sites, you'll look at the. How do you know what's a troubled site? Does someone tell you? Or you're supposed to find out.
No, we have weekly phone calls, and they include like ClinOps, the biostatisticians, um, the site manager and stuff like that.
Ah, I like
So
that. So
we're
who?
very
What's an example? Let's share some juicy details. Well, first of all, what ETMF do you guys use?
um I don't know, because it's inside of the portal of the CRO. So that's a good
Oh,
question,
okay.
but I didn't ask them
Okay.
that. But they file all their stuff inside the portal of the CRO.
Okay, that's so every CRO what they do for the students watching and listening, they take existing TMF systems and they pay a little extra to put their sticker on it, so their logo. So that's what Christine's referring to. It's probably Viva. I'm guessing it's either a Viva or a Bioclinica product. In our CRA Academy and for our interns and for our investigator initiated studies, it's Intralinks. They're all the
Mhm.
same. I mean, you pay a little extra to those vendors and you could put your logo on it, and then sponsors think it's yours. It's not. They don't build their own ETMF systems. Okay, so let's get juicy details. So what's like an example of like one of these calls? Like what's a notable one? Let's say you're on
I
a
would,
call and the
yeah,
site's having issues. Like what's a common one and then what's a memorable one?
the first thing that comes to mind is enrollment. And I think you're going to run into this a lot because enrollment directly affects the timeline of the study, which equals dollars to the sponsor. So you want to keep it very personal, right? Because you're working with the site, but at the same time, you have to keep in mind the interests of the sponsor you're working for. So it's kind of like a catch-22, right? Because you want to talk to the site and ask them, what's going on? How can we help you enroll more patients? And they might give you like two really good ways they can fix the enrollment, and then you try to work with them, but like for example our trouble site didn't even buy into it, right? Like
Hmm.
when at the end of the day they gave us a solution, we were going to agree to it, but it didn't wind up happening. So it fell through, and that definitely affected the timeline. So then that equals dollars for the sponsor.
I see. So usually it's around enrollment. What about around quality of data? Does that ever occur?
Yes, we did have an issue. So, with medical device, where we were keeping tabs on the quality of the images that were being captured. And we had to get back to the sites and let them know that we needed a certain number for the quality and explain to them what was necessary. But it was a little bit difficult because our protocol said that we could only train them once, and they had already been trained.
Your
So,
protocol said you can only train them once.
mhm.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I wonder why
they
that is.
They were investigating the training too, and they
The
wanted to see if they
the
could train them once and if that would be enough. But
I see. So that's part of the study actually, to just train
mhm,
them once, like ease of use of the device,
yes.
basically. Okay, I see. That's interesting actually. I never even thought about that for devices, but it would make sense for device like so one I have a study here. My first study that I'm gonna get here in Yuma is a dermatology study.
Mhm,
And I just talked to the monitor today, so we'll get it. Then we'll have the SIV and all that stuff. It's a derm study, but one of our sub-I, we need an ophthalmologist sub-I because we need an OCT exam,
mhm.
which I forgot what the acronym stands for, but it's an ophthalmology thing. Uh,
Optical coherence tomography.
there you go. The doctor even did one on my eye just to show me like what a patient would experience. It's pretty cool. It takes like 5 minutes per eye, but uh, the training. So they, when I refer to training, it's their GCP training. Because this is a derm study, so it's for a drug. It's not about the eyes. The eye is just a safety assessment.
Mhm.
But the sub eye, like they're not research experience, and like I have to convince them to do GCP, and then now the sponsor wants to come out and train them on how to do the procedures which they already know how to do. So it's that whole conversation we have with them. So I was thinking that the training that you were referring to was along those lines, but it's more about how to actually use the device.
Yes, and actually the PIs weren't the ones using it. It was the coordinators.
I see.
So,
I see. So it's meant for optics, like
act
ophthalmology techs.
actually no, it's like for primary care. And they're trying to
Ah,
detect retinopathy even before the patient goes to the ophthalmologist.
wow. Okay. Okay.
It's like
That's
a
really cool.
portable OCT. You can look it up. It's on the website.
Wow. That's awesome, actually.
Mhm.
So if that gets approved, then we could start using these equipments in future studies
Well, the
instead of.
device, yeah, I was gonna say the device is approved, but they were testing like an AI.
Ah, I got it. Yeah, we got to be in touch because my ophthalmologist, now that we made him do all these trainings, now he's like, hey, why don't you get me studies? Uh, and he's 88 years old and
Oh,
still
nice.
treating patients. He wants to do research. Guy's amazing. I got to do a video with him. Uh, all right. So I guess it's safe to say there's not a like every day is different for you.
Yeah, it can be different. It just depends all on like what's coming down the pipe from leadership, right? And medical affairs and what exactly they're looking for. Because we have right now two ocular devices that are in my portfolio. And so it just depends on like sometimes they want to do claims and I'm involved in that too,
Mm.
which is not really necessarily related to research. It can be if they want to prove a claim. Of course, then it would take a protocol, but um, it's just very different.
Yeah,
I
when you're dealing with the payers and all that stuff.
It's definitely not what I was expecting to do as a CRA. And kind of like what you say, Dan, is like you got to read the job description and figure out what they're really looking for. Because even though my job title is a CRA, I'm not really doing a lot of CRA work.
And you're working for like a relatively smaller company, right?
No, it's a big company, but medical affairs has only been around about 2 years. And the vision care is only two people under medical affairs.
Wow. And you're
Yes,
one of them.
I'm one of them. Hmm.
Okay. All right. We got question. By the way, put your questions in, CRA Academy students. Leonardo says, "What's your advice for a project control specialist switching career to CRA?" He's saying you, Christine, and then I can add input, and then we get more people typing too. So, project control specialist. I don't know. What does that actually entail? Because I would say we would need to know what that
Hmm.
actually entails.
Leonardo, if you want to come off mute, I'd be happy to chat with you. I
Yeah,
haven't heard that
Leonardo.
one, have you? I've heard quality control, but not project control.
They all sound the same after a while. I probably have. Leonardo, feel free to unmute thyself, or chat more. Um, and then we have more comments. So, how stressful is your job?
It can be pretty stressful, like, depending on where we're at with the project. So, if you're at a point where you need the sites, you have a week, let's say spring break, right?
Mm,
Spring break, people are going to take vacation. So we were probably projecting enrollment to be 5 patients per site a week, but then that week rolls around and now they went dwindled down to one or two or zero. That can be a lot of pressure because then you got to reach out to CRO, reach out to the sites, set up phone calls,
mm,
meetings. How do we get this back up? Because, like, if the sponsor wants the study to last 6 months, and now, because of enrollment drops, it's going to go 9 months. That's a lot of pressure
right.
because you got to think about paying the sites, but you got to think about paying everybody involved, the vendors, the CRO. So it is a lot of pressure as far as like getting everything back on track.
It's like $1 million a day, and that was
Mhm.
pre-COVID numbers, so it's probably higher than that now. $1 million a day to do a study for like one sponsor, one study.
Mhm.
So that includes everything Christine said, like all the behind the scenes people. Are they? Who do you deal with, like at the CRO when there's an issue? Because you're from the sponsor, so I would imagine it's kind of cool to be in your situation because you've only been in your role for like 8 months, but
Mhm.
you're like, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. You're calling people from the CRO who've been doing this for decades and you're telling them what they're doing wrong. Right?
Sometimes, yes. I try to approach it more as a team, team approach
Yeah.
and say, how can we do this better or, things like that. And I think that just comes with like the military background and you don't want to tell people what they're doing wrong because they're not going to want to help you or they're not going to want to, work with you. They'll work against you. So
But you're the boss. You tell them like, "Hey, we're not happy with X, Y, and Z. Why? What's going on?" Or are you like the nicer type?
I'm definitely the nicer type, and I try to come up with a plan with them and then work together to solve it.
That's good.
So
Did you ever get pushback? Like, who do you talk to on the CRO side typically?
it's the clinical trial lead, and she's been there, I
Ah,
want to say she said like 12 years, and she's
yeah.
open to doing an interview with you, but I'm
Oh,
waiting till our
okay.
contract ends and then I'll reach out to her,
Okay. Yeah,
which is
please
soon.
do. That'd be awesome. I just interviewed a CTL Tiffany Ashton from the one who sent me these, actually, the CLINT Essentials
Mm-hmm.
action item checklist. Okay, more questions. That's cool that you work. This is see, I never knew that sponsors. There's even more opportunities in this industry than even I thought, guys. Having Christine on, this just shows you never know everything there is to know. Having Christine on, just talking to her right now, taught me something about research. I've been doing this like over 15 years, right? When you're the CRA at a sponsor, you can still use a CRO and they have their own CRAs, but you're kind of in charge because she's in a department of two people and she's only one of the people. So she's in charge of dealing with the CTL, clinical trial lead. So once you if you like, you forever will be able to get any job you want after this role because
I
you're
hope so.
dealing with CTLs like from a sponsor level. Every CRO wants sponsor side experience. Why? So that they can satisfy their sponsors better. At these CROs. Okay, Caroline asked, "What was the interview process from CRC to CRA for a sponsor? What were like some of the questions they asked? How did they
Well,
grill you?"
I have to be honest, the CRO questions were more intimidating than the sponsor. And I don't know if that has to do with the fact that, like, the medical affairs department that I work under has only been open for 2 years, or um, there's been a lot of mergers and stuff like that. So I don't know if it's because it's just not the same level of experience as a CRO.
Hmm.
But with the CRO, they were doing those textbook questions. It was a 2 hour interview for the first position that I was offered. And, my first interview was really rough because he was literally reading like line by line off a sheet of paper. And he told me, "Don't worry, there's going to be moments of silence because I'm taking notes and I'm writing down your answers." And I was just like, my gosh, okay. So it's just a lot of awkward silence and a
Oh
lot of,
wow,
dead air, time to think and get sweaty and nervous.
wow,
So, but after I interviewed with him with the CRO, the second hour was much easier because the person that I interviewed with was prior military, so we connected instantly. And she was just very personable. She was not reading from a textbook or anything like that. And I had applied to go in through the military program that the CRO had because I was just trying to get in kind of quick. I didn't want to go back from my military leave to the same company I was working for. So um, she said that I didn't have to go through the 9 month training since I already had experience. She would give me 3 month training and then I could, basically go on to be a CRA within 3 months. So I was like, okay. And the sponsor hadn't reached back out to me. So I thought, well, maybe I'm not going to get it. So I accepted the offer from the CRO. And then that's when the sponsor called me. Like, let's say I accepted on a Friday, the sponsor called me on like Monday or Tuesday, and I was actually working with a recruiter. So the recruiter said, "You need to reconsider," because I was like, "I can't take, I'm sorry, I accepted a different offer." And he's like, "No, we need to talk about this." He's like, "It was going to be a 6 month contract for a CRA, and I thought I was going to have to travel." And then he says they're willing to offer you 100% remote and a full time position for X amount of dollars, which was about 5 grand more.
wow. Was it ophthalmology also?
No, with the CRO, it was gonna be any therapeutic area, it could be anything.
Wow. Okay, and that's
So,
all with the coordinating experience.
yes, yes. So, it's all
Wow.
about, like, some of the questions that they asked are, like, how do you deal just the textbook stuff, like, how do you deal with a difficult situation? Um, and when you answer those general questions, you wanna try and respond with situations that are related to research, right? You don't want to say, well, somebody had a big spill and then or somebody had a heart attack. So I, had somebody call 911 and grab the AED. Well, that's not really related to research. Like, yes, that's really good. And all of that, you can show that you're an expert in emergency situations, but they really want to hear how you deal with like research emergencies
Right.
and stuff
Things
like
more
that.
likely to happen. Things more
Yes.
likely to happen to you on the job.
Yep.
Because I'm pretty sure we all know how to call 911 if we need to.
Mm-hmm.
Well, great advice, actually, Christine. Okay. Oh, that reminds me. When I interviewed for a contract CRA with a biotech, they were a small oncology biotech. There were the two people interviewing me by phone, and I didn't get the job, but I don't think it's because I didn't do well. I think it's just they found somebody better, or maybe they found out I have a YouTube. But the I shouldn't have been vlogging this. But they basically back to back, they wouldn't give me chance to breathe. Right? They would say, "What do you do when you notice a temperature excursion?" Then I would answer. They wouldn't. It was like no silence. As soon as I'm done, the next question. What do you do when, like, what kind of investigational product did you work with? Oral, pill, IV? Boom, I answered. Next one. What do you do when a coordinator doesn't do this? It was just nonstop like this, Christine, for like half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking, how would a student do in this situation? Because none of it was generic, like, what do you do in a time of crisis or challenge? It was all like about oncology and about like nitty gritty stuff. So the interviews can go like different directions based on who's, you got to be ready for all of it, guys,
Mm-hmm.
right? You got to be ready for all of it. Rosie says, what about someone like me with no CRA experience, but I feel like I have the qualities of a CRA when I look at job description? Who should I look to network with on LinkedIn? Christine is one.
Yeah, you
Um,
could definitely add me. I would also join, the GCP Cafe on Facebook because there's a lot of experienced people there, but also people like the person that sent you that booklet, Dan. What was her name from CLINT Essentials? Because she has free
Tiffany
resources.
Ashton. Tiffany Ashton.
Hmm. So you want to get to know all these people that have public personalities or public, places where you can go and watch videos on what they do every day. And Tiffany Ashton, she posted something the other day about how to ship, what was it, bloodborne pathogens or investigational product or something. She showed
IP,
how to
yeah.
tape it and whatever. So you want to get one on one with those people that are posting because they're the ones that are the experts and they're already showing you that they're willing to share their experiences by posting publicly. So I would definitely get with those kind of people
Yep.
and network with them.
Okay. Rukayedu says, what's your advice working as a CRC, then to CRA as your starting point? Do you advise to start as a CRC for better background and understanding?
I would say yes, even if it's just 3 to 6 months. Just do a short little stint as a CRC. And the reason is because you're never going to be able to get that experience if you don't work at the site. And once you go into CRA, it's kind of like in the military. I'm going to just give you a very simple comparison, right? You have some officers that go from enlisted to officer, and you have some that just join the military straight up without being coming enlisted first. And the ones that you're always going to want to work for are those ones that had the enlisted experience. So it's the same thing here. You want to work with people that have already done those things before at the site level, or at least are familiar with them, because they're going to be better able to work with those sites and they are going to be better able to understand certain situations and give them not necessarily points or tips or anything like that, but just help them out. And that's really what the sponsor wants because you got to get those sites audit ready.
Hmm. I agree. I mean, I think that the first job you get, take it in research. Okay, don't let too much time go, and you're all gonna have experience on your resume with the breast cancer study. So a lot of our former students went on to be remote site monitors. The CROs are hiring for those positions now. It sounded like Christine was gonna be in that role, remote site monitor, or something similar to that. So they're hiring for these kind of things. Of course, it's easier to get hired at the site level. They're smaller, especially if, like, related to Esther's next question. If one is already in healthcare, how deep do you both advise a new CRA to critique the data without annoying the PI, like lab values, vitals, how progress notes is written? I would critique it all. Like, you don't necessarily have to. So when you're monitoring, you have a report. Okay, these are the reports Christine looks at as a sponsor CRA, and these are the reports you guys are going to send me actually when you do the internship. You put everything in your report. You document everything. It doesn't mean you're going to talk to the PI about all those things, but you document every single thing in there. The more detailed, the better. The sponsor is going to tell you to follow up on certain things. For example, if a lab value is high and the PI puts non-clinically significant, that's generally okay. But if you realize, well, this is not okay, this might be an adverse event unless it's part of medical history, you need to put that in your report and let the sponsor tell you how to proceed. And then when you have to call the PI, you have to bring it up. You know, those like those few things. You're not gonna bring up everything. So, for example, if they're writing sloppy progress notes, meaning you can't read it, when you talk to the PI, you tell them, hey, you know, in addition to like these other things I mentioned, your notes, I understand your doctor, your notes are just not legible. That's part of Alcoa is for legibility. Can you just make an effort? And you want to document that conversation in your monitoring report because if you didn't document it, it didn't happen. So if the FDA comes to audit, they're going to say, why didn't this CRA ever say anything to the PI? And yeah, you could have said it 100 times on the phone or in person, but if it's not documented, nobody's going to know. They have no way, the FDA has no way to recreate the moment in thin air. The technology is not there yet. Some people say we're getting to that point, but it's not there. You can't recreate what happened in the past. It has to be documented. Okay. So that's Caroline asked the same thing. Good question, Esther. I am in that position. How do you not sound like you are overanalyzing the data? Yeah, document, guys. What do you have to say about this, Christine? You review the reports from CRAs. What usually you see too little detail, right? Not too much.
Well, the first thing I'm going to say is that if I was a CRA that was going out to the sites to monitor, first I would build a good relationship with the coordinator or whoever you're meeting up with, because a lot of the times the person documenting in the ISF is the coordinator. The PI just signs off on it. So make sure that you know the coordinator well and figure out if you're critiquing the PI or if you're critiquing the coordinator. And the next thing I'm going to say is that from my experience as a coordinator, when monitors would come to one of the sites that I worked at that had over like 60 studies, is that you're never going to have enough time to go through every binder. So if you get there and you pull a binder and you start critiquing page by page by page, you're going to find yourself at binder 1 and you're at hour 6 and you got to leave in 2 hours. So also pick your battles, because you're going to have to survey at least, a certain amount of binders, a certain amount of paperwork. And you'll find findings, but you're not going to be able to go through every page. So pick your battles.
Yeah, yeah. Pick your battles and look, when you're like details matter, I screwed up on my recent several monitoring visits. Number one, I missed a temperature excursion of a refrigerated IP. Luckily it wasn't that much of a excursion, so the sponsor accepted it, but still, like the CRC made a mistake. And I was busy and I didn't have time at that particular visit to check their temperature logs. But then the next visit I did, and I was like, whoa, we had like 8 days of excursions. So now they got to fill out forms. The sponsor's going to approve it, but they have to fill out forms. And now it's like, in a way, it makes me look bad that I missed it. And they know no CRA is perfect. You're going to miss stuff. Another one I missed is height. So in my EDC, the height was recorded at screening. And the height's important because that with the weight gets the BSA, the body surface area, which is how they adjust the dose for cancer patients. And so in my EDC, the site did a typo on the EDC for the height. So there was screening and then there was the next visit. The height is in both of those places, and you don't expect height to change. So I didn't even like verify it the second time. I'm like, okay, no one's shrinking or growing in an adult study, right? So they actually did a typo and it messed up the dose that they were supposed to do. So little things can turn into big things if you don't pay attention. So, Esther and Carolyn, nothing is too small. Okay. You just, like Christine said, it's a matter of how you present it. You gotta be nice like Christine. You gotta go in there, be nice. And good things happen when you're that way. Okay, what else? Any other questions, guys?
Can I share
And
my experience with the
of course,
temperature logs? So in ophthalmology, we have these 2 to 8 degrees Celsius medications. So
that's
when we
exactly
have an
what mine was, 2 to
excursion,
8.
yeah, when we have those excursions, they're like big deals because you have to not only report them to like pharma or the sponsor, you got to report them to the the person that created the medication. So and then they'll let you know if you can use it or you have to ship it back. I don't know. Was that the same for you, Dan?
It's still a work in progress because the sponsor is from Korea, and the line manager says it's most likely not going to be an issue, but the coordinator needs to fill out these forms for each excursion. And yeah, it's like 2 to 8 Celsius also, and the excursions were like 8.3, 8.5.
Oh, okay, good.
One of them got to 9, but that was the highest one. But it's
Because
a oral chemo, so it's stable even at room temperature is what they were telling me, but technically still a deviation and all that stuff.
definitely. So
Little
that's just
things,
when,
guys.
and that goes back to like the SIV, right, Dan? Like these people are supposed to know this stuff, but sometimes you have a lot of change in staff. And when you have that change in staff, you wind up with coordinators that didn't go to the SIV. They're supposed to review the SIV slides, but just because they review them and sign off doesn't mean they really understand everything. So when you go back out to the site, if you have new personnel, you want to make sure to touch on those slides with them too.
Yeah. Here, I think here was a more issue of summertime in California and SoCal because it gets hot. All these excursions happen in the summer. And you think, okay, in a fridge, temperature is the same. Well, it's not because I just moved my house from California to Arizona. At my home, my fridge was okay on like setting 3. Here in Arizona, I needed to put it like on setting 5 to have like the same. So this is what happened at the site with IP. In the summer months, they needed to adjust the strength of the fridge, and they didn't because all the excursions happened between July and August. Luckily for me. So now the coordinator is going back to look through everything else. So it's always something potential. This is why CRA is stressful. Hats
Mm-hmm.
off to all you guys for wanting to be CRAs. We actually need more, but it's
Mm-hmm.
stressful. Okay, Esther says, is a non-remote job better to start off with, or will either remote or non-remote job give you similar experience? I would wait for Christine's answer on this one.
Well, I would say non-remote. Um, and I'm gonna say non-remote because even though my job sounds like it's all, almighty and glorified, I'm missing out on that site interaction. So there, like I said earlier, there I still have that FOMO of wanting to go and get my hands dirty and find out what it's really like to go to these sites. But I will say that the monitors that go out to the sites, they give me their feedback. They'll call me and report things that are not going well, and then I have to call the sites and have a heart to heart with them. So
Oh,
both
so
are
you
good.
actually do call sites.
Yes, I'll call the site
Wow.
if I need to, but it's not very often.
Let me tell you, as a site owner, we're used to CRA calling us all. My CRA just called me earlier today. We're cool, all that stuff. It's like whatever. But if the sponsor calls you, number one, you better pick up. And number two, you better pay attention to what they have to say because they're not just calling to say hi. You know.
Right. Very true.
Okay. Anything else? You guys could either chat or unmute yourself. Um, and we'll wait. We got like, thank you so much, Christine, by the way.
You're welcome. Well, we missed somebody earlier. I don't think they wanted to come off mute. Leonardo. He never responded.
Leonardo, project specialist. I can only guess what that would be, and it could mean a whole bunch of different things. So, not sure. Um, if Leonardo or if you're still here. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Or you can always message me or Christine on LinkedIn.
Oh, it looks like he's on off mute, but we can't hear him. Maybe he's having mic problems.
Ah, okay. Leonardo, maybe he can chat. Anyone else while we're waiting?
What kind of background do your students have?
All kinds. So a lot of like clinical background, like nurse, some engineer, some project manager, all like highly educated, like at least bachelors, but most with masters
Wow,
of some sort. So yeah, it's an educated class that we have. A lot of good backgrounds, a lot of interesting backgrounds. Um,
awesome.
yeah, a lot of like foreign pharmacists, foreign physicians, nurses.
Yeah. I mean, I can talk a little bit about LinkedIn. So, I would definitely suggest getting on there if you're not on there already. Make sure you get over 500 connections so the algorithm will pick you up. You can create, a professional looking photo with with free websites out there. So, try to get a professional background in there. And you can use word art or Canva because when I was looking for jobs, one of the tips I got was that people that go to your LinkedIn page, their attention span's only like 5 to 7 seconds. So if you create a
Wow,
word art and put keywords in there at the top of your banner, people are more likely to connect with you.
wow, yeah, that's good advice actually.
Another thing was like a meta tag. So you have to name your profile pic and your banner a certain way so that the algorithm will pick you up too.
Really?
Yes.
This is yeah, okay. Wow, I don't do that.
Yeah,
Um,
meta tag. Set
huh.
your alerts to the jobs and locations that you want to work in, and you'll get an email every week or day, whatever you choose on your alert system.
Wow. Okay.
hmm
Hmm.
But you know the basics, Dan. I'm sure your class already knows not to just connect with people and not thank them later and
Well,
stuff like that.
yeah, the but like common courtesies. Ashley came on and like totally nerded out with algorithm stuff. But that she might have mentioned the meta tag, but this is the first time I heard it. So, project control specialist is responsible for building project schedules and managing resources. Okay, so basically like a project manager.
hmm
Yeah, I mean, you're doing less project management as a CRA and more source data review. So, I guess a direct comparison to you would be project management assistant or project management associate, Leonardo. I think you can get one of those jobs combined with the CRA Academy internship experience. You can get like a project management associate position at a CRO, and then from there work your way to being a CRA. You could do that. And once you're in the CRO, you will have what's called a line manager, and they're supposed to help guide your career with you. That's where you tell them, hey, I don't mind PMA, I don't even mind project manager, but I ultimately want to be CRA, and they'll work with you, especially if you're already going to have some experience from the breast cancer study. Because there's not too many directly translatable experiences from what you're currently doing to CRA because you're not in research. So once you're in, now you have some, now you can transfer it. So just take the quickest job you can to get in research first.
I would think somebody with your experience could do like budgets and contracts specialist or something along those lines.
Yeah, there that too. That too. Actually, um on Latinos in Clinical Research, I just did a video. Uh there's a networking tab with jobs. We just posted that job posting last week.
hmm
Um And so yes, that was one of the jobs that we listed on there actually.
Yep, that's another thing I do. I didn't mention that is I have to review the contracts and stuff often. And if we have to make an amendment, I have to, type that up and stuff like that. That was a learning curve for me because I didn't really deal with a lot of that on site. Once we had a budget or a contract, it was already set in stone.
Mm.
But there are some sites that know that you could request an increase in your budget and stuff like that later on. So
Yeah, look, Leonardo, here's the job postings from a Lily that I just did a video on today. Some of those links don't work, but one of them on there was
So,
about budgets.
low barely yourself.
Hello? Wait, is that Leonardo? Let's see. Somebody's say, hold on. I'm
I don't know
pasting
who that
links.
was.
I don't know what's going on. I'm pasting links, but check those links out, guys. And then thank you again, Christine, for coming on. I really appreciate it.
You're
And
welcome.
everybody needs to connect with Christine. Let's put Christine's link in here too.
So Carolyn
Everybody.
wants to know, how do you ask for the salary range during interview without lowballing yourself? Well, I would say you want to look that up before you go to the interview. So go to like salary.com or those websites, where you can look up a salary because it's going to depend on your location. Even though you might be remote, still look it up anyway. And then I would go for like 5 or 10K more than what the website says. Because you can always come down, but you're not going to go back up.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Inflation, guys. Everything costs more now.
and then if you think it's too much or you don't feel comfortable saying that, say it anyway, but then let them know it's negotiable, that you're willing to discuss it if they want to give you a lower offer. And then, of course, at that point, you would have to decide on whether you would accept or not.
Did that come up in your interviews?
It did, but not in the two that I got the offers for. So I did stay thinking for a while, like, was it because I was asking for too much? But like one was in Dallas, so I was gonna have to move. So I thought I would, I had to ask for a certain rate.
Yeah.
And anyway, I'm glad it didn't work out actually, because I would have never been where I am today.
You're in San Antonio, right?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. I love San Antonio and Austin.
Hmm.
All right, so it looks like one more person typing. So we'll take a few more questions. Everybody take the time to click on those links I put and to click on Christine Naro's LinkedIn. And what is the starting range for CRA? It varies. It's all
Hmm.
over the place. Um, I would go to Indeed.com and Glassdoor.com and just look. It ranges all over the place. I would say 65K a year is starting. But you can go a little lower if it's like remote site monitor, but not too much lower either. Around that starting range. So thank you guys. I appreciate it. Like we had a great group right now asking lots of questions, and we had a great guest, Christine Naro, who's just getting started in this industry. So we're all gonna get started together. Christine,
Hmm.
everybody go network with her. Thank you so much, Christine. Where do you prefer people reach out to you? LinkedIn?
Yes, LinkedIn. If you want to connect with me professionally, I would love to connect with you on LinkedIn. But of course, I'm also on Instagram, and other areas as well. I also have a link tree on my Instagram that you can check out. And I wish you all the best of luck. And I can't wait till you all start working in the industry because we need all of you. So
Yep. We
keep
need
working
more.
hard and don't give
Keep it
up.
up. Don't give up and wait till the internship. It's gonna get hard, guys. All right. Learn your stuff now. Learn it now. It's gonna get hard in the internship. I'm telling you right now. Thank you very
Yes.
much, Christine.